Well, folks, as details continue to emerge in the Nashville shooting at a Christian school in which a biological woman who identified as a man killed 3 students and 3 staff members, there are increased calls for authorities to investigate this wicked act of violence as a hate crime, targeting Christians for their biblical beliefs. Joining me now to discuss this and more, Senator Josh Hawley of Missouri, who has introduced a resolution condemning the violence as a hate crime. Senator Hawley, welcome back to Washington Watch.
Thank you so much for having me, Tony.
So reports indicate the shooter targeted the school and not any specific individual, but these were children and staff killed because they were at a Christian school, and the law enforcement has said there was an issue that this young woman had against the school. Do you think we can expect the Biden administration to investigate this as a hate crime?
Well, no, but they should. And this is why I wrote to the FBI director and the Secretary of Homeland Security yesterday, demanding that they open a hate crime investigation. Look, Tony, you know the law. It's clear. If you commit an act of violence or attempt to commit an act of violence against an American based on their religious affiliation, that is a hate crime. That's what we have here. I mean, based on what the Nashville PD is telling us, that this was targeted, as you just said. She didn't randomly choose this school. She targeted this school. This is a Christian school. These were students at that school, employees of the school. These people were targeted based on their affiliation with the institution. There needs to be a hate crime investigation because, Tony, we've got to stop this from happening to other Christian schools and places of faith in the future.
Senator, the legacy media has jumped into action, painting this violence as a reaction against legislation that actually protects kids from these experimental gender treatments, like your state of Missouri is being very aggressive to try to stop this. It's about churches and Christians that hold to a view of human sexuality as defined by the Bible. But isn't this really just a natural result of the dangerous rhetoric of the left on these issues?
Well, I would hope that all of these groups, all of these so-called human rights groups, would be out there condemning this as the hate crime that it is. I mean, that's the real test of their any moral authority. If they want to be taken seriously at all and have any kind of authority to speak into this right now, they need to first say, we condemn this hate crime. We condemn hateful rhetoric and speech, hateful speech that leads to crimes. I mean, that's what they ought to say. The problem is so many of these groups have engaged in this kind of hate speech. They've talked about a day of genocide. They've accused Christians of genocide, and they've talked about days of vengeance against anybody who opposes them. You know, I mean, Tony, I got to tell you, I mean, that is walking right up to the line of incitement, where they're actually encouraging people like this woman who is clearly mentally unstable. I mean, who knows? This is why we need a hate crime investigation to find out what influenced her. There's apparently a manifesto, so-called. We need to know what's in it. You know, what is it that was driving her?
Right.
And all of these groups need to renounce hate speech that leads to violence.
You're absolutely right, and I appreciate you stepping out and making that statement, because I know the left doesn't like it, which tells me it's the right thing to do. Senator Josh Hawley, always great to talk with you. Thanks so much for phoning in and joining us today.
Thank you for having me.